What makes you the angriest? Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy. Thanks. Story 1. Dealing with people who show no sense of responsibility or accountability. Story 2. My sister called me crying, telling me she's suicidal because our mother pressured her into an abortion. After hours of consoling her and being supportive, I hang up the phone and immediately call my mother to give her a piece of my mind. She responds, "What are you talking about? Your sister is right here, and she's still pregnant. Here, you talk to her." She responds, "I just wanted to know what you would say." Story 4. People who have speakerphone conversations in public, fuck off. Or war or whatever. Story 5. People who treat service workers like trash. Oblivious hypocrites. People who don't respect the beliefs, privacy, or property of others. Story 6. Emotional immaturity. Story 7. My mom had stage 4 lung cancer. Before she passed, I spent a year and a half taking care of her. I lost track of the number of hospitals we went to, or the number of times I woke up at 5 a.m., fought traffic, etc., just to bring her to chemo, cooked for her, managed her medications and later on, her hospice needs, etc. If you've had to take care of a cancer patient, you know the drill. My dad did the same for my mom too, when he wasn't overseas with his mistress. A few months after she passed, my dad tried to guilt-trip me into moving myself and my wife back to his house by saying that I haven't done anything for the family. I went ballistic and smashed up the garage. He never brought it up again. Story 9. As an introvert, when someone says, "Why are you so quiet?" Story 10. People intentionally littering. Story 11. The lack of human empathy in society. Story 12. People who are loud. Even thinking about how loud they are makes me angry. Story 13. You know when you are walking down the sidewalk and the sidewalk is just wide enough for 5 people, and then you see 2 people walking towards you in your direction, but rather than temporarily falling into a single file line, they stay walking next to each other, and you have to step off the sidewalk. Yeah, that. Story 15. Having a narcissistic mom. Story 16. Time is real. I am willing to die on this hill. I cannot tolerate people who don't abide by time. Story 17. Honestly, on a daily basis, myself. Thinking of my past mistakes, my lack of engagement. I am just angry at myself for what I am not. Story 18. People who get away with it every time they do it. Story 19. People at work who are stupid and lazy. Story 20. People who take advantage of the elderly. Story 21. Honestly, it's the way society is set up to make the rich richer while destroying everything and everyone in their path with no regard at all. Billions get so much tax incentive yet there's none for hard-working people. Story 22. People who are intolerant of other people's culture and the Dutch. Story 23. People who believe in fairy tales and then insist that those tales be incorporated in government law. Story 24. When cutlery has those water spots. Story 25. Slow drivers who use the left lane as a cruising lane instead of the passing lane. Story 26. Simply existing. Story 27. People who lack any sense of accountability or personal responsibility. Parental neglect, child abuse. Story 28. Self-centered, inconsiderate assholes. That covers most of what everyone is complaining about, and that grinds my gears almost every day. Story 29. Greed of elites and corporations. Making decent profits in the 70s and 80s was not enough for them. They are creating a bigger and bigger underclass with rising prices and profits. Story 30. People who try to control other people's lives. Stop it. Leave other people alone. Story 31. Victim mentality for everything in life. To put this in context, this does not apply when a person has been a victim of violence, crime, horrible life behavior that hurts them. There are real victims. I'm talking the people that have an excuse for why they can't move forward in life ever, can't get their project done, can't help their kids learn or behave. We all know those folks, the ones that won't take any responsibility. Story 33. People who still support Trump. I get you're all in a massive cult and don't know it, but please wake the fuck up. Story 34. People who don't understand boundaries, people who claim to know everything about you. Story 35. People who go to public hiking trails and play loud music out of a boombox in their backpack. Story 36. People who ask me the same questions over and over again. Story 37. When I ask what everyone wants to eat, and nobody can make a confirmation as to what they want specifically. So, I spend a goodly amount of time and materials to make a nice meal for the family, only to have half of them not want any of it because it wasn't what they wanted. We also have a family member that comes over with their dog, who then proceeds to feed it off their plate at the table. I'm sorry, but I didn't drop good money on a steak for it to be fed to their animal. Story 39. People, organizations who purposely spread misinformation to facilitate public outrage. Story 40. True crime. The amount of misinformation that industry has caused could be a true crime special in itself. Story 41. Ever heard a dial-up tone? Story 42. The fake X button trying to get you to click on the ad. Story 43. Animal abusers. Story 44. The abuse and lack of care for animals. I don't understand how somebody could intentionally hurt one when it is completely unnecessary. I just don't see how people can just hurt them so carelessly like that. Story 45. Nazis. Story 46. People actively trying to take rights away from humans because they're different than them. Nothing more than that, just different. And they hate that. Story 47. Work meetings that could have been an email. Story 48. Pedophiles. Liars. Stupid people. So politicians in general. Story 49. If this music weren't good, people wouldn't listen to it. If this movie weren't good, people wouldn't watch it. The majority opinion isn't always right. Fuck you. Story 50. Seeing people try and justify homophobia, transphobia, racism, etc. with religion. Story 51. Waking up. Story 52. I can't see my forehead. Story 53. Getting sick. I'd rather get punched in the face than get a cold. Story 54. Subhuman wastes of space and oxygen who commit atrocities against children. And slow Wi-Fi. Story 55. Situations I have no control of. Story 56. Pens on strings. Story 57. Lazy people downplay the competent, hard-working, talented people into oblivion out of jealousy. Story 58. People attempting to shove their personal politics down your throat. The woke and far-right are essentially cult followings with a whole lot in common, apart from what they actually believe in. Story 59. Animal abuse. People who are willing to harm an animal can and will do the same to a child, another adult, society. It shows a complete and utter lack of empathy, forethought, or consideration for another living being. Story 60. Arrogant idiots spewing out logical nonsense to the public. Story 61. Mistreating animals. Also mistreating of anyone else, like child, woman, etc. But people in general care much less about animals than other humans. Even if someone claims they like animals and they have pets, over time I almost always find out it's not entirely true. They either only love dogs but hate cats, or they buy very cheap food for their pets or get bored of the animal and don't want them anymore. Or they know someone is abusing animal and they just say, poor dog. How can someone do that but they don't attempt to help? Sorry, this is just my vent. Our family is dealing with this kind of people all the time. Story 63. Bad drivers. Story 64. People's obsession with celebrities and TikTok trends. Story 65. When you say something that's true and people try and deny the reality of that truth and then go on to make out like you are the arsehole. Story 66. People smoking near me. Story 67. Abuse of animals. Story 68. When you work for like 2 weeks on a project that was supposed to be a group project, and that one MF goes to you in the end after you spent 5 days sleep-deprived making a vid, PPT, and model and says, okay. Did you write my name on it? Can you tell this was from a personal experience? Story 69. People who use triggers and rage against those triggers instead of learning to cope with real-life stuff that everyone on Earth has learned to put up with. Story 70. I was working in a small electronics store and some lady came in looking for a cable. Pretty average start to it. Then the conversation began. She was looking for a longer iPad charger. Yeah, no problem, we've got them. Then she tells me why. I want to use it so that my iPad isn't wireless while my son uses it, because wireless gives you cancer. Me, I'm sorry, but I don't think that's quite how it works. Her, no. There are studies that show it, and if he has it plugged in, then it's not wireless. She smugly claimed. Me, well, that's not the kind of. H, sweetie, it's science. Yay. This middle-aged fucking bitch decided to get all smart on me with science. I didn't know what the fuck to do. Her little smirk during my silence just about caused me to snap. Well, you'll want the 10 feet cable then. That'll be $60, please. After she left, I just raged. It still makes me upset thinking about it. Story 72. Reddit mods mostly. Story 73. The first urge to pee after drinking a whole pot of coffee. Story 74. Not waking up next to a 4'9" woman with an athletic body next to me in the morning. Story 75. Noisy neighbors who produce noise for no reason. It's like the sole purpose of their existence is to produce noise and annoy you, like kids living upstairs and running in their house, stomping on the floor and pulling chairs, etc., and wake you up at 3 a.m. Story 77. An earned entitlement. Story 78. Yeah, except like, one extreme is just minorities having rights. And the other is Nazism. Same thing for sure. Story 79. People who asked what makes you the angriest. Story 80. Being non-responsive and people who don't appreciate your value in their life. No matter how much gem of a person you be, there are some who will still deceive you. This is world, and I believe this is how it works. Story 81. Bad drivers and people who leave their carts in the parking lot. Story 82. People who are confidently dumped wrong. Story 83. My life. Story 84. Child abuse. Animal abuse. Story 85. People who don't finish there. Story 86. My mom expects me to do everything for her. It's all or nothing. Dick Pinchman. I have to do so much trying to keep this relationship alive, and the pressure is killing me. Meanwhile, I'm just supposed to be thankful for every pittance of effort I can squeeze out of her. I'm slowly getting better, 1 inch at a time. Why can't that just be enough? Because it would never be enough if things were reversed. Story 87. People who are disingenuous, especially if it's very obvious they're not being truly honest. All it does is complicate things when they could have been straightforward from the beginning and arrive where we were supposed to before and without all the lies and fronts. Story 88. Top 3 are asshole drivers, toxic friends, family, and neighbors who blast their music. Story 89. This sort of shenanigans tops my list. I have no obligation to tell the truth to the media. Media lies to the American people all the time. Corey Lewandowski, September 18, 2019. Trump's campaign manager. Story 90. When shitty people are rewarded for doing shitty things.